Hey, 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 welcome to Keep It Spiritually Simple. I'm your host, Sandra McEllis. And you know what? We're going to do our best to keep it 20 minutes or less, but with my guest, I have a feeling we're going to go over. But I'd like it if everyone could just take a second to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment, a question. So any future videos, episodes we do, we can answer those questions for you or answer it in the comment section. Anyone listening to audio on the podcast channels, you can also go over to my YouTube channel and match face with voice at Sandra McEllis on YouTube. So without further ado, I have Sha Sparks from the Sha Sparks Show. She's been a podcaster for a very long time. She always has a lot to say. I met her a couple years ago when I went on her show. And then she was like, Sandy, you need to do a podcast. And here we are, fast forward a number of years, and I'm finally doing it. So I have it all to thank to this beautiful lady. So Sha Sparks, how are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me. I am so proud of you, first of all. And just to hit record for the very first time is so scary at first. So the fact that you've been doing it and you keep going and I'm just if I was there in person, I would just squeeze you tightly. I'm very proud of you.
Well, I can feel that love. I feel that love right through this virtual. And I appreciate it because you've been such a motivator and a mentor because of all the things that you've done. I know we have a little bit of a similar background, but let's just tell our viewers, who is Sha Sparks and what is she doing with her life?
Oh gosh, who am I today? Well, because it changes on a regular basis. So who I am is I'm a fearless communicator and an energetic catalyst for change. Now, what does that mean? What it means is that I have been through so much change in my life that I have found the best way to approach it is with an opportunity mindset and a growth mindset rather than looking at it from a place of fear. And so that is why I love it when people are like, oh, I have to change this. I have to change that. It's like, oh, wonderful. That's exciting. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. Let's talk about that because nervousness and excitement shows up the same way in your body. You just are choosing to call it nervous when really it could also be excitement. So who that's kind of who I am in a nutshell. But one of the things that I make is I have a maker's machine. That is a community for small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, creatives, YouTubers, podcasters, TikTokers, whatever. That we have our mutual friend Adam and I have come together and really created a great community, a mastermind to uplift, support, and be accountability partners for people. That is one of my favorite things that I do. And then I also have the Sha Sparks Show, like you mentioned, and as my podcast, and I interview amazing business and military leaders on what it means to invest in people.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Well, let's elaborate on that nutshell.
Yeah.
So, your background is
So my background is that I am a hairstylist.
yes,
Yeah.
and look at your gorgeous hair. I love the balayage. That looks so beautiful. Is that what we're still calling it these days, balayage?
I don't know. It could
I
be
don't
on.
either. It looks
I don't
great.
know. I just know that so I was mostly a redhead for most of my life and probably about I guess it's been probably 15 years ago I went all blonde after a breakup, right? We washed that man out of our hair and started on my healing journey, and I decided I needed to really change the way I look and build up that confidence. And so I went from being all red or having red lowlights to being all blonde. And man, I'll tell you what, people treat blondes differently, that's for sure.
Yeah, I just don't carry blonde. I have a lot of it naturally in my hair, but I don't carry it well. My skin doesn't. So my hat's off to you because you just look freaking awesome. It looks so natural. I wouldn't have known.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yes. So hairdresser and then hairstylist, I should say. But then you moved on to some other things as you kind of grew up and decided there were some other things in your life that you really wanted to do. and those moved into what?
Yeah, well, I first of all, I love the name of your show, Keep It Spiritually Simple, because that's kind of what I went on. I think we all at some point in our life go on a spiritual journey or a healing journey, if you will. And so for me, I got out of an abusive relationship. That was the whole reason of the shift, the change, the healing journey, the spiritual, I won't say awakening. It was definitely a journey. I've always been a spiritual person, but it was just a deeper dive into what I already believed and who I am and what I believe as in the creator and God as well. So I started on that journey, and as I grew and learned things about me, I would share them with my hair clients, and I'm like, here and I are going to believe what I learned about myself today. And they're like, oh, I can't wait to hear. What did you learn? I'm like, I cannot be vulnerable. I have a really hard time sharing what I actually am feeling and what I actually am thinking. So I will hide it in sarcasm. And I just learned that sarcasm is anger in a clown suit. And they're like, wait, what? Like, I'm sarcastic. I'm like, right. So do you actually share what you're feeling and what you're thinking to your person? Like whether it's your spouse, maybe it's your boss at work, maybe it's your team at work, maybe it's your parents, kids, or are you authentically honest and genuine? And they're like, oh no, I'm never that. I go, right. I had to learn how to be vulnerable. I practiced being vulnerable and transparent, and all of this fear I found bubbling up inside. And as I started to share it anyway, what I really wanted to say in a loving way, that I shifted the relationship with the people around me and my family, especially my father. And so when I would share that with my hair clients, they would then leave and come back after 4 to 6 weeks after their next haircut appointment, and they're like, oh my gosh, because of what you said to me, I tried that at home, and now my relationship has shifted with my kids, my team, my boss, my spouse. Have you considered becoming a coach or starting a podcast or being a speaker, writing a book? And this went on for years. And to be honest, I was like, I mean, yeah, at the back of my head, I think I want to do that. But I didn't think I could actually do it until a friend of mine, I was working with her on learning mindfulness. She was the dean of a um, psychology department of a local university. And she had created this mindfulness um, program. And I said, I'll be a test subject. So she was training me in it as well. And I love what she said. She said, well, the people that are around you see you for who you really are. You see yourself in a different perception. Your perspective is skewed because of the things that we're taught from childhood, the things that we hear, that we pick up. So what if you take the good things that people are saying to you, and you borrow their confidence in you so that then you can have the courage to take that next step to do those things, become a coach, become a speaker, all those things. And I was like, huh, well, I mean, if I did that, the worst thing that can happen is I have new skills. So, jump ahead. That's literally what happened. I just started, researching coaching programs, speaking programs, how to write a book, things like that. And it all just flowed into over the past several years, probably 8, 10 years now. And what ended up happening is just 3 years ago, I was able to step away from being a hairstylist, step away from the salon full time, and go all in on all the other things, the being a coach and speaker and book and podcast and all of that. So yeah. And it was all because of I got out of an abusive relationship.
So you step more into looking at your authentic self in a reflection of what am I now? What do I really want to become? And most of us look at that as, okay, tomorrow I'll get to that. Tomorrow I'll get to that. Maybe one day I'll get to that. Next thing you know, a year, 2 years, and much longer goes by, and we're still floating in that same space of doing the same thing, repetition, living in the old programs.
Yeah.
And just your wanting to get out of a relationship, having the courage to do it, and then having to look at who are you out of that relationship because there's trauma created, right? And
Yeah.
that can create a whole drama series, or it could just be a one episode because you took care of it, you worked on yourself, and you helped yourself through an innate wisdom of God's source, I believe, because I
Hmm.
know when you speak, it comes through you. Um, and it's not always you, it's you're the mouthpiece for that.
Yes.
And so in that residency of the vocals coming together energetically, and as we always know, if you have a good hairstylist, you've got a good therapist, right? Because you have a tendency to listen to all of it and you can either choose to respond or not respond, but you learn a lot about people's basic lives that sometimes you hear the same repetitive thing every day and you're like, oh dear God, I need to make a change because I can't listen to this, because if these people are going to do this, I either have to help them or I have to walk away.
Mm.
So you're choosing to help people through a lot of their pain and their trauma, before it becomes too long of a repetitive drama series. And I think your point of vulnerability is very important. Now it's funny because I feel like I really do express myself very well, intimately and superficially, and in different types of relationships. But I've always had a wicked sense of humor. And I don't look at that as like I'm hurt or angry, because my humor is more about just funniness about a situation, because it creates a laughter in my own self that shifts my energy. So, could you elaborate a little bit on that vulnerability and masking behind anger, or some of those things that you would see that would make you dive into that a little bit deeper?
Sure. So I was at a Women of Faith conference many years ago, and one of the speakers actually said that little quip that, anger or sarcasm is anger in a clown suit. So the clarification is that there is two types of sarcasm. There is sarcasm that is funny and genuinely funny, and it might be poking fun at yourself. But the sarcasm I'm talking about with the anger is when you're almost like trying to make a joke, but then you have to back it up with just kidding. And it's
Yeah.
oh, I'm actually trying to be funny, but I'm not. So, because I'm really trying to hide my anger inside a joke. So, whenever you notice yourself going, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, really, I didn't mean it. I'm just kidding. That is where it's like, that's when you start to look at and notice, what am I really feeling? And what is it that I really wanted to say? I noticed for myself growing up in a house, we were always sarcastic. And so I started to notice what each one of my family members was saying to me, just in natural conversation. And my parents were divorced. They'd been divorced for a long time. And just noticing some of the things that they would say. Finally, I got to the point where I'm like, wait, are you being sarcastic or are you actually angry at this person? Because when they were saying these things, it wasn't about them. It was it might have been about me, but most of the time it was about another family member. And so I said, are you actually angry with them, or are you feeling some sort of way about them? Or are you wanting me to do something? So that's also the other little tidbit about sarcasm is sometimes manipulation is hidden in there. Like they want you to do something, but they don't actually ask you to do it. They just kind of
Mm-hmm.
put it out there. And so again, I learned that if I just come from a place of curiosity and love and go, well, what's really going on here? And as I started to do that, especially to both of my parents, they were like, well, no, I'm not angry. And then I would say, are you sure? And then it was, a pause. And then they started to share, well, actually, yes, I'm upset with so and so. they didn't actually do what they said they were going to do, or they didn't, follow through or whatever, or, whatever the case may be. And once that was noticed and revealed to me, I was like, my goodness, how often I have, no wonder I do this, right? I don't even actually share. So I really had to learn to watch my language. And so that is when then I took even a deeper dive into what is my inner voice actually saying to me? Is it helping me or is it hurting me? So then I started to notice that my own voice, I literally would just journal and write down all the thoughts. When I say inner voice, it's your thoughts. What is
Mm-hmm.
that? And what do you say about yourself? Like when you look in the mirror, what do you see? And I noticed that I had all of these negative things about myself. Oh, you're too fat, you're too ugly. How can you be so fat to fit in that dress? And all these different things. And you'll never be good enough, you'll never be smart enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, all the things. And I was like, okay, where am I getting that from? Am I making this up? Or had someone else said this to me? And it wasn't until a friend of mine and I had went dress shopping for an event that we were going to later on. And I'll never forget, it was during my healing journey. And she came out and we're in the hallway to stand in the hallway mirror, full length mirror. That was terrifying to me, first of all, to just stand in the full length mirror in front of someone else. So she stands there and's like, "Oh, I'm ready. You come out." And I was like, "I'm not sure about this." She's like, "Come out. It'll be great." I come out, I look in the mirror, and I literally hear in my head, "I can't believe you're so fat and look so fat and bad in that dress." And I was like, "Well, there it is again. The ex-boyfriend. There's his voice saying negative, nasty things to me." And then it was as if his voice started and then went away, but the words were still there and a different voice showed up. And that's when I realized it was my mom's.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, okay. So our childhood experiences shape our adult decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's been in a toxic, and I'll use that word rather than abusive, toxic
Mm-hmm.
relationship, typically we have an opportunity to look back at who else we have been in a similar relationship with because that toxicity is familiar and we attract it because that's all we know. So as I'm doing these exercises of journaling and noticing, I'm thinking to myself, I'm toxic to me because that's how I was raised. I didn't even realize how mean I'm to myself. So when other people were being mean to me, of course I didn't notice because I was already there. It was already natural. And so I really had to retrain, rewrite my brain, build new neural pathways by speaking nice to myself, by hearing it when I looked in the mirror and was like, "Oh, you look so terrible. You look so ugly." I literally had to go, "You know what? Shut up." And sometimes I would say it out loud to myself. I mean, out loud when I was by myself. And
Yeah.
I'm sure if anyone was watching, I looked crazy, but it helped. It helped my brain go, right, that's wrong. And then I had to make sure that I followed it up with the I am statements, affirmation of I am beautiful. I am worthy. I am a someone, a somebody. I am good enough. I am enough. And when I started to do that, that is when the real change in everything for me started to take place. That is when the more I did rewrite my brain and rewrite the language I was saying to myself, the more layers I was peeling away of the onion that I am, that we all are.
Yes. And once again, we go back to the storage unit, the subconscious storage unit of 90% of all that we are, and 10% is the conscious. And, the way spirit has shown me is we're a 24/7 surveillance camera, and we take in everything, even if we don't remember a thing about it. And when something externally or internally, words, self talk, outside words, actions, energetic feelings trigger that, it like floods all that negativity in through the whole bloodstream until it happens enough times that you believe it's part of you and that you're believing part of it. And so I like the fact that you can just say, shut up and stop the nonsense. When you were talking, I was, most parents are raising their children by the seat of their pants,
Right.
right? And they're repeating
Yeah.
some of what, and 9 times out of 10, almost all of how they're getting treated, even when they want to make the changes or they're attempting to make some changes. Pretty much the lineages of the grandparents and the great grandparents are all flowing through your parents. And until you actually wake up and stop it, you're going to become very similar to that parent or parents. And if you are in a toxic environment, it can and will become an abuse that you use as a self getting through the day mechanism, right? Whether you believe it or not. And my dad used to sometimes say, we had 5 kids in 5 years, 4 girls and a boy. My dad would sometimes say something like, if you were confident, he would say something like, well, don't think you're all that. And I remember him saying it and thinking how absolutely bizarre and didn't make any sense to me, as a grade school, junior high school person. I'd be like, what? I don't understand that. My sisters would feel hurt by it. I thought I wasn't. However, when I would get out in public and something would happen and it would be like, okay, so those of you who can do this, step forward. And I would go, I can do that. But my physical body would not allow me to step forward because there was a part of me that was like, nope, don't draw attention to yourself. You're not all that. And then other people would step forward and I go, why didn't I step forward? It was because somewhere in my subconscious, I allowed it to become part of my own daily program, which came out in my daily behavior, which then became almost a locked in fixture of who I was until I learned to go through that deep dive layer by layer and empty out my storage unit and find out that there's not all junk up there. There's some amazing nuggets of treasures and everything's a lesson. So I have to look at it as a lesson, not a, well, damn my father for saying that. Damn him for putting that in, that doubt of who I am into my thought. How dare you put that psyche transfer? But he was also very, very sarcastic. And so I didn't know till many years later that he had his own drama things going on in his life that came out in a very negative, but he never said, oh, just kidding. He would just say things and we would think, oh, but to him it was very matter of fact because somewhere in his life, someone else was very critical towards him. Yeah. So it was this automatic feedback loop of his subconscious, even though I don't think he even intentionally ever thought that it was hurting anyone. So a lot of us think of abuse as a physical abuse. And, a lot of it is not. It's actions and it's even non-actions because it's all in the energetic field because we're all sensing God's, who we are, God self-wise. And we learn to override that God self because we're learning only what we're programmed in this lifetime from our parents instead of learning who we really are as a God spark being. No pun intended, Sha Sparks. It's all sparkles.
I love that, God spark.
Yeah, it is. And we get away from that because we get locked in that the only thing we see is what we see in the mirror, right? And, I don't care how beautiful your body is or isn't. We are the first ones to be critical of thyself. We're the first ones to say we're not good enough because we're programmed off television and, now we have social media, it's everywhere, but that's changing too. That's changing too. The imperfections are more perfection in ourselves. So touche for you. for understanding that and going through that for yourself, and then being able to share that with others as your profession.
Mm. Well, I have to say, the main key is really understanding, like what you shared about what your dad went through. You know, he had his own stuff, right? And for me, when sharing it, and maybe I didn't make that very clear, is to understand that your parents are doing the best that they can with the tools that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're around the same age, our generation, there was no self-help, self-development, you know, coaches, therapy was like absolutely not, that is for crazy people. You know, there's like all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff that was never talked about ever. My dad was in the Vietnam War. He was drafted to Korea during that time, but I didn't even know that he was drafted. I thought he had enlisted until 6 months before he had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, there's so much that he never shared. And so just thinking about that, if anyone in your audience is listening, that you're like, yeah, my parents weren't great either. It's like, I understand, and give them grace, because we don't know. They may not even consciously know or remember, like Sandra just said, from what they experienced as children. And then your grandparents put it on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a definitely generational, something that we experience, and we don't even, if you don't address it, you don't realize there's something wrong, you have no idea. So for me to really be the chain breaker and to go, you know what, it stops here, has been uh, it was amazing for me. But then to see it come to fruition, so several months into this journey, I had probably a handful, probably 5 women who came to me, and just in sharing and what was going on in their relationship, at a normal conversation, the conversation got deeper and deeper. Next thing you know, they're sharing their significant other's toxic trait. And I was like, okay, so this is what I went through. And I was with them for 12 years. It never gets better. So are you thinking it's going to get better? And they're like, yeah, as soon as we get married, as soon as we have a kid, as soon as we do this, as soon as the thing. And it's like, it
Mm-hmm.
will never get better. It only gets worse. And each one of them ended up leaving their significant other that was toxic. And they were not married, they were just in a relationship. And what I realized then was that, got it, I went through what I had to go through so I could have this understanding and knowing, so that I could help others to understand and know.
Which brings me to the thought process of, when things happen to us, we're like, why? Why me? Why do I have to go through this? Right. But to your point right there, you had to go through all the hurt and the pain and the years of allowing it because you participated in it, right?
Yeah.
And then having it broken off, whether it was your choice, his choice, whatever the circumstances were, but you allowed that to circulate through you and to come out learning lessons through it, so that now you can stand in a position to be a mentor and somebody who's lived it, breathed it, and understands it, um, from a kinesthetic point of view, like you feel it, right? And people feel that passion when you're talking. Like I've experienced, I didn't just read a book, I didn't just go get a degree. I'm telling you that I have experienced this. And in my findings, people don't change. It will get worse.
Right.
And so, with me telling you that as an example of that, hopefully it'll give you more oomph to dive deeper and to make a decision. Am I going to take this another day? Or am I going to love myself enough to say, this is not what I want to experience anymore? I don't like it. It's uncomfortable and it's not healthy for me or any other relationship I want to meet in this world.
Mm. Amen.
Oh, yeah. That's a
And,
big
and,
one.
and I want to add to that, if you don't mind.
Please.
So one of the things that I think is not talked about enough is when people are in a toxic relationship and they've come to the awareness that this is probably not right for me. There's There's a whole lot of advice like, oh, just leave, just do this, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
pack a bag, whatever, and you'll be fine. What I want to say is that after the awareness is there that I need to do something, and yet you don't know what to do. I will tell you that when you are blinded by toxicity, there's almost a very difficult thing to see light on the other side of this relationship. So I found for me the best way to get me through one more day is to focus on that light. What do I want my life to look like on the other side of this? What aspirational hope do I have? Can I imagine that my life could possibly look like uh, when this is over? And that is what will continue to give you the courage and the peace and the motivation and the empowerment to continue to take tiny steps towards your freedom. But had I not thought about hope, because we lose hope when we're in that, right? Where we're hopeless. Sometimes we feel helpless. So it was everything that God gave me as an imagination is let's create this little possibility of what's possible outside of this. And that's literally what it because it takes sometimes takes years. Once you make that decision that I need to leave, sometimes it takes years for you to actually get away. And that's what really drove me was that piece of aspirational hope.
Yeah. And also, I think an inner conviction sets in too when you kind of are at a point where you're like, this does not serve me and I will not. And there's just, it's like everybody's rock bottom is different. But when
Mhm.
you hit it and you know you've hit it, and then you're like, okay, no more. Pathways will open up where it's like, oh, here's a helping hand here. Here's some advisement here. Here's some suggestions on how to carve a path to exit this in a
Yes.
safe manner so I don't create any more harm to anyone. Um, I personally experienced it in my first marriage in my 20s, so I get it. Um, and I'm a living, breathing testament, as many other are about, no more is no more. And
Yep.
you have this feeling, and when you break that bond with that connection to it, there's an inner power that comes into you that funnels energy, and then doors just open. I call it the God self. The God self team steps in, is like, okay, she's ready now.
Mhm.
Let's open some doorways for her. Let's show her that she's not stuck,
Yep.
because many people do feel stuck
Mm.
because somebody holds the purse strings, or somebody holds this, or somebody else holds that. And it's really thinking that everything else has power over you. But until you start to own your own power, everyone else will own the power over you. So you stepped into your own power, girlfriend, and you propelled forward. And now you're able to, it oozes from you when you're speaking to others. So it has a whole different vibrational residency when it comes through you, because you're speaking from that inner personal experience.
Mm.
So good
Mm.
for you.
Oh, thank
And
you.
then now you've
Good
got,
for you.
yeah,
You're doing,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
I actually, for me, it was, there was no one there to help me. My parents thought I made my bed, I had to live in it, and
Yep.
there was no
Same.
help. Um, Abuse at that time was in the early 80s, was extremely embarrassing, and it
Mm.
was always your fault, no matter how it happened, because men hold more of the power.
Yep.
And then I had a small child, and I looked at that child and I was like, there's no way that I could instill anything in her if I'm not doing it myself. And there was that inner conviction of like, I will go against all of you to break free from this. And
Mm.
doorways just began to open. I look back now and I could probably write a book, but doorways began to open. So I had, each time was a deeper breath, and each time was a little bit more freedom, and each time was an escape, and each time was a door closing behind me. And then each time was more strength
Yep.
moving forward, to get to where I am now. So people who say I don't have a good support team, if you reach deep inside yourself and you ask God to come in and assist you, I can promise you,
Mhm.
avenues will open up, pathways will open up, people that you don't even know will connect with you in that way, because that is the what you're emanating out is, I am no longer going to allow anyone to take advantage of me or abuse me, because I can't be my authentic self in those situations. And then, so I hope that this really helps others. I really do, Shay.
Well, I do too. And I'll say this, you say, well, if you say you don't have a support system, so create one. And by listening to this episode, just what you just shared about having the conviction and to get you through and finding the strength, that is your own, that's creating your own support system. Listen to this because we believe in you. We know that you can do this. We know that you can
Mhm.
get out and heal and live a more fulfilling, loving to yourself life.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of us live in misery and we think that that's the way it's supposed to be. Work ourselves to death and live in misery. And that's not what we're here to do. The gold is not the ruler of the money. The gold is within us in our hearts. And so that's really where the power is. It's not outside of us. So we have to tap into that guiding force. So we have the Sha Sparks Show. And then you have a lot of mentoring groups that you do, and you have one on one clients and group clients. What else are you doing?
I have, thanks for asking. So I also have a group, and a co-author book. It's called Firestarters Book Project. And it is for also creative thought leaders who want to be the change that they want to see in the world. So as you can see, like I started all of this, everything's around change because we all go through change, right? Change is one thing that's constant. And I just have seen so many people go about change in such a negative way that I really wanted to give a voice, to be heard, to be seen, to be understood, to show, to inspire, and to empower that there is positive change. And so a lot of people just go at change with not a big deal. And so all the things that I do with the coaching or the books or the podcast, whatever. It's literally all focuses around change. And I didn't realize that until just this conversation right now. But that's really what it is. It's just looking towards the positive of change.
Well, when you have two people who are synergistic in energy, when people like this come together, again, no pun intended, but we spark,
Mm.
you know, opening up and expanding,
Mm-hmm.
and new ideas come in and they begin to shape and take form and, become into a tactile creation that you can see, sense, and feel and touch. And those kinds of things are important. And I know that people that will listen to the show, it will resonate very deeply with some, and others might be like, okay, well, I know someone who could benefit from listening to this show, benefit from connecting with Shay, benefit from maybe a session with Shay, maybe even tuning into some of her groups, maybe even getting, her book, hello, or something along that. But, most of all, I hope people can look and say, look at those two normal looking women who did it and can do it. They're average, so-called average people. And if they can do it, I can do it, right? And so we have to help each other one step at a time. Although I don't like the word normal, I love it when people call me weird, because, I'm like, okay, well, describe normal. That's the status. You can have that.
Right.
I mean, I've been that way since a kid. People say you're weird. And I go, I know,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Great.
okay, I'll take it. And they go, no, that's even weirder that you think you're weird. I was like, okay, well, what are you? I don't know what to say to that. Like, what are you, normal? What's normal? Ew, the rest of you go be normal.
Right.
I want to
Right there
go
with
be,
you. I
yeah,
love being weird.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it's coming up for so many people of our age group right now. It's like weird is the new normal, but I just don't like those words. So before we sign off, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience, Shay?
If you're listening or watching to this, right now and you are feeling like you're stuck. Maybe that's in a relationship or a job or God knows whatever else. Maybe you're feeling like you're just running on a hamster wheel, never able to get off. Reach out. Reach out to Sandra, reach out to me. If we cannot help you, we know so many people between the two of us. We have resources that, we can send your way and refer someone that there is someone out there to help you. So, like I said before, you don't have a support system, create your own. So you can always reach out. And yeah, you can find me at shasparks.com. You can go to my podcast, the shasparksshow.com. You can find me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear what your takeaway was from Keep It Spiritually Simple podcast because Sandra's amazing and she did an amazing job. So thank you for listening. And Sandra, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, Shay, thank you. That was very heartfelt. I got the chills. I appreciate your support and your friendship and always being able to reach out. And again, I wouldn't have this podcast if it wasn't for you and Heroes Media Group, which you referred me to. And yeah, I feel very blessed. And I just look forward to seeing where this road takes me through the podcasting and helping people on a daily basis or as often as possible and being an inspiration to others, you know, and
Yeah.
keeping it so that people want to get inquisitive. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. Again, appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share. Shay's links will be in the description. Again, leave us a comment here. One of us can always try to answer it. Or it could be a question or a comment that we could bring up on future shows. So if there's a topic that you'd like for us to get into, or you have some concerns about something, or what ifs about something else, no question is not accepted. So it's whatever comes to you that you think might be beneficial and that we could hopefully help you with. So anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Say goodbye, Shay.